Good morning. We will pay attention to bank reconciliation statements and the bank account today. So we will not record the additional entries in the cash receipts and cash payments journal, but we will record it directly into the bank account. That means that entries that would normally be recorded in the cash receipts journal will be recorded on the debit side of the bank. Entries that will normally be recorded in the cash payments journal will be recorded on the credit side of the bank account. If we look at the dates, we see that the bank reconciliation given to us was on the 31st of July. The journals is at the end of August. So we are busy reconciling our books with the books of the bank at the end of August. The reason why they give you the previous month's bank reconciliation statement is that you can determine what was the bank balance at the end of the previous month, because that is the balance that we will record in our bank account. And we will have to see if all these entries that we showed as outstanding entries at the end of the previous month was corrected during the current month. To calculate this balance, you will say that the bank statement has a debit balance of 240. The outstanding deposit in the books of the bank is on the credit side. The checks is on the debit side, 120 and 420. And you have to correct a mistake on the debit side, 24. And then you will calculate the balance in your bank account, and in this case it will give you the 816. That is the last time that we wrote in the bank account, so that is the balance that we will start with. So we will start the bank with the balance that was calculated in the previous month's bank reconciliation statement. Then we will use the bank total that was given in the cash receipts journal, and we will record the bank total in the cash payments journal to indicate the transactions that was already completed during the month. The bank balance showed a debit balance of 1887 at the end of the month, so that is where they stopped their books, and that is where we will start with the bank reconciliation statement. So in the bank reconciliation statement, we will indicate that there's a debit balance of 1887. Now remember, in our books, in our bank account, we will debit deposits, and in the books of the bank, they will credit deposits because they treat us as a liability, because they have to give us our money back. In our books, we will credit the bank account when we write our checks, and in the books of the bank, they will show checks on the debit side. So it means in their books, the balance will increase on the credit side and decrease on the debit side. The following items appeared on the bank statement for August, but not in the cash journals for August. So first of all, we will go and look in the previous bank recon to see if this check 311 for 420 and the deposit of 1620 appeared in the previous bank recon. Then we see in the bank recon for July, we said the bank must still record the deposit and they must record that check. So they've done now what we said they have to do during August. So it will not appear in the journals because we already recorded it in our journals during the previous month. A stop order for 600 Rand in favor of the owner for his own use. So the owner signed a stop order on behalf of the business at the bank, instructing the bank to pay out 600 Rand to the owner every month. So a stop order is just like a check that's written out, so it will be recorded in the cash payments journal and will therefore reduce the money in the bank. The bank account, we will show that the money is taken out of the bank on the credit side. The account that will be debited will be the drawings account. Service fees of 12 Rand, so that's money that you have to pay to the bank. So they've already recorded it. It is money that's taken out of the bank. Therefore, we will record it on the credit side of our bank account, and normally it will be recorded in the cash payments journal. The bank is credited to show that money was taken out of the bank, and the bank charges account will be debited. So all expenses paid to the bank is called bank charges, except interest will be recorded as interest on overdraft. A dishonored check for 152. This check was received from E-Mini in settlement of account of 170. That means if a check was received, we recorded it in the cash receipts journal. If this check is dishonored, we have to cancel the amount on the check in the cash payments journal. The amount for interest will be recorded in the general journal, but we are working only with a bank account now, so we will not record the interest. The bank account is credited to show that the check was dishonored with 152, and the debtors control account will be debited to indicate that the debtors increase because they owe this money to us. Stop order in favor of Sanlam for the monthly insurance premium. So that means that the bank paid out this 70 Rand on behalf of the business. So it's just like a check, money paid out of the bank, and the expense will be insurance. The bank account is credited to indicate that money was taken out of the bank, and the insurance account will be debited. Deposit of 210 made by the owner in his personal bank account was recorded on the bank statement. So that means that the bank made a mistake putting this deposit on the books of the business instead of recording it in the books or the account of the owner. If the bank made a mistake, we have to correct it on the bank reconciliation statement. If we made a mistake, we will correct it in our subsidiary journals. When the bank recorded the deposit, they recorded it on the credit side. So to correct this mistake, you have to debit the bank reconciliation statement to cancel the 210 that was incorrectly recorded as a deposit. Protea Flores deposited the monthly rent of 280 directly into the bank account. So it means the bank recorded it as a deposit, and we will now show in the bank account that the money in the bank increased on the debit side. The bank is debited to increase the deposit. Rent income account will be credited to indicate that the income increased. Interest on the debit balance is 18 Rand. Now remember, this information is taken from the bank statement. So this is on the debit balance on the bank statement. Any entry on their debit side will be recorded in our books on the credit side. So this interest is money that we had to pay to the bank because our bank account is overdrawn. The bank account will be credited to show that the money in the bank reduces on the credit side, and you will debit interest on overdraft. Correction of an error of 24 that was made during July. So that means the previous month the bank made a mistake, and we indicated on the bank reconciliation statement in July that they have to correct this mistake. So we will go to the previous bank reconciliation and see if this error appears on the previous bank reconciliation. Because the bank made the mistake and they corrected it, we will not record any entry in our books. And on the previous bank reconciliation statement, we can see that they corrected the 24 Rand now. So the only outstanding check or the only amount that was not recorded so far is the one for 120 Rand. They will either have to give us additional information about this 120, that the check must be cancelled or that it's older than 6 months, etc., or we will have to show it in the August bank reconciliation statement again as an outstanding check, because a check is valid for 6 months. We've paid attention now to all the entries that appeared on the bank statement to ensure that we made the necessary adjustments. And now they give us information about the following items that appeared in the cash journal. So that means in the cash receipts journal or cash payments journal, and not on the bank statement. Check number 456 dated the 30th of September for 990 Rand. So that means that we recorded it in our cash payments journal, and this 990 is for the end of September. So it is a post-dated check that the bank will have to pay out in the future. And we will record in the bank reconciliation statement that this payment will be made in the future. When the bank pays out the money, they will record it in their books on the debit side, because the money in the bank will decrease with the check that's paid out. Check number 449 for 814 Rand that was issued for merchandise purchase. So this check must still be paid out by the bank in the future, and therefore we will record it on the bank recon to indicate that they will pay it out in the future. Then there's also check number 458 for 940 that was already recorded in the books of the business, but the bank will pay it out in the future. So both those checks will be debited on the bank reconciliation statement and recorded as outstanding checks. A deposit on the 31st of August for 980 that the bank will record in the next month. So we will show it on the bank reconciliation statement as an outstanding deposit. It will be credited on the bank recon because in our bank account we will debit deposits. In the books of the bank they will credit deposits. Number 450 was returned dishonored by the bank because the check was not signed. Any check that's returned by the bank will be cancelled. When we originally issued this check, we recorded it in the cash payments journal, so we have to cancel it in the cash receipts journal, and we will therefore record this 88 Rand on the debit side of the bank. We now owe the money to the creditor again, so we will credit creditors control with 88. Then we will issue a new check for the 88, check number 488 in the cash payments journal. Therefore, we will indicate this check on the credit side of the bank. And the bank account is credited. We pay the creditor, so now we will debit the creditor's control account again to show that we don't owe the money to them. Because this check was only issued now, it means that the bank will have to pay out this money in the future. So it's very important to remember that if a new check is issued, that you have to show it as an outstanding check on your bank reconciliation statement, so that the bank will pay this money when the person takes it to the bank. So in the bank recon, we will show the 88 as check number 488 that must still be paid. Check number 441 for 89 Rand issued to Telkom for the telephone account was incorrectly recorded in the cash payments journal as 98. So it means that if we made a mistake in the cash payments journal, the amount that we recorded on the credit side of the bank was too high. To correct this mistake, we will have to correct it on the debit side. So 98 minus 89 will give me a difference of 9 Rand. When we originally recorded it in the bank on the credit side, we debited the telephone account with 98, so we also have to reduce the telephone account on the credit side with 9 Rand. Cheque number 285 was issued to Soweto Soccer Club as a donation. The club was disbanded, so that means that we have to cancel this cheque. When we issued the cheque, it was recorded on the credit side, so now we will record it on the debit side and we will cancel the donation on the credit side. After we recorded all the entries, we will balance our bank account to determine what is the closing balance. Because this balance is brought down on the credit side, the 3949 will be recorded in your bank reconciliation on the credit side. So this credit balance according to bank account will always be on the same side as the balance that was brought down in the bank account. If I add up the debit column and I add up the credit column, the two totals should be the same if I corrected all the mistakes and completed entries for all the omissions. If they still don't agree, you will have to go and look for more mistakes. What did we learn? We used the bank balance in the previous bank reconciliation statement as the opening balance in your bank account for the current month. The bank columns in the journals will be recorded in your bank account. Then you will record entries in the bank account instead of the journals, because in this question they asked you only to complete the bank account. When you complete it in the bank account, you must remember that the word that you write must always indicate your double entry. Record entries in the bank reconciliation statement that must still be completed by the bank in the future. If the bank made mistakes, it will be corrected in the bank reconciliation statement. If the business made mistakes, it will be corrected in the bank account. And the closing balance in the bank account will be recorded in the bank reconciliation statement on the same side as what the balance was brought down.